Hi everyone, my name is Terry Roswell and welcome to today's video. This is my second monthly reading wrap-up of 2025, where I'll discuss all the books I read throughout February. It is a spoiler-free zone, so if you haven't read any of these books yet, don't worry, it is a safe space. I'm currently in a bit of a weird reading slump at the moment, which is super rare for me, but it seems to be affecting my attempts of trying to listen to audiobooks. I'm not sure if I didn't enjoy the book or if it was just the slump talking, and between trying to set up a new business and moving around a lot this last month, I've not actually had the time to try and sit and read. Usually audiobooks would be like a godsend in that sort of situation, but honestly, it was a real struggle. So I read 5 books last month, which is obviously a huge contrast into last month's 17, but I did say at the time that was a huge fluke and likely to not happen again for a very long time. It's rare that I get anywhere above 10 books, but I think that 5 is a perfectly respectable number. So the first book I read this month was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I originally picked this book up because I needed a thriller for book club, and it was also on Goodreads Thrillers of 2024 and Favourite Audiobooks of 2024. However, it wasn't the strongest start for me. It didn't live up to the hype. Sorry, Reese Witherspoon. I rated this book 3.75 stars. It is a thriller, but I'd say that it's more like a slow burn thriller because personally, I found that most of the interesting bits happened in the last 30 or so percent. That being said, it really was a good ending, and it was still really clear and easy to read despite all of the flashbacks and the non-linear timeline. It follows Evie Porter, who seems to have a wonderful life, a doting boyfriend, everything. But Evie Porter doesn't exist. It's not her name, it's her job, and the doting boyfriend is her target. When a woman shows up using Evie's real name, she knows that it's a warning from her employer, but she wants out, and to do so she's going to have to set the perfect trap, which means using herself as bait. It's a female con artist thriller with like a hint of romance. As I said, I think that the author did a great job on the writing and making sure it was still really easy to read, plus the ending was great. It just wasn't really for me, and I think there's a lot of thrillers out there that I would recommend first. The next book was Flawless by Elsie Silver. It's the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, and I originally picked this one up because, probably like a lot of you, it was all over my social media for ages, and I did read Done and Dusted, which is another cowboy-themed romance, and I really enjoyed that one, so I thought I'd give this one a try as well. So Flawless follows Summer and Rhett. Rhett is the golden boy for professional bull riding until it kind of all blew up in his face. In an attempt to clean up Rhett's image and get his career back on track, he's stuck with his agent's daughter Summer as full-time supervision until the end of the season. Did this book live up to its hype? I'm not sure. I rated it 4 stars, so I did absolutely enjoy it, but it did take me a while to get there, mostly because I didn't really like the characters at first, but they did eventually grow on me. It was a super easy to read, slow burn romance with a nice amount of spice. I have heard that the next book is much better, so I am looking forward to continuing with the series. It was absolutely worth the read, but I am hoping that I will like the characters in the next book a lot more. I then read Insatiable, which is the first book in a series called Primal Sins. It is a short one, around 150 or so pages. I picked this one up because Fee was reading the second book in the series at the time and she recommended it. I do have to say that about 25% or so through it, I thought to myself, what the fuck am I reading? It follows a woman who's had a fairly rough past few months, and when Halloween rolls by, she decides to join her friends on a little getaway to a creepy old mansion. Perfect for the season of spooky stories and cheap thrills, but they get way more than they bargained for as something much darker awaits in the shadows. The creeper's touch ignites fear and a desire she never knew existed. It's a dark horror romance with lots of spice. It was pretty gripping from the beginning and super easy to read. I had no clue what I was getting myself in for. It was a little weird and there were some moments that weren't my favourite. If you know, you know. But overall I did really enjoy it and I rated it 4 stars. It's not a book I'd ever really heard of before, and I absolutely would recommend it, but as always, make sure that you're reading responsibly and read the trigger warnings first. My next read was actually the next book in the series, Drenched, which was slightly bigger at about 250 pages. I was definitely curious with what more the author had to offer, and this one seemed much more my speed. But I did also rate this one 4 stars, which I think is a little bit off because while I did enjoy the first one, I think I did enjoy this one a little bit more. I think these books are like a standalone series, so while they might be in the same collection and they might also be a dark horror themed romance with kind of like a weirdness going on, I don't think you strictly have to read them in a certain order. Like, it's a totally different set of characters and they don't really seem linked in any other way apart from the monster theme and the genre. This one follows Pearl and her colleagues as they study the effects of this mysterious glowing algae. When she's pulled beneath the ocean waves by a creature, she's caught between terror and desire. As I said, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was such an interesting premise, and I thought that if they wanted to, the author could have easily have gone into much more depth, pun not intended, and made it a much longer book, although it wasn't strictly necessary. It was easy to read, had great pacing, interesting characters, and a gripping narrative. I would recommend this book, but as always, make sure you read responsibly and check the trigger warnings first. I then read Six of Crows, and my full discussion will be up on Tuesday, so I don't want to go into too much detail about it yet. This one follows a team of 6 dangerous outcasts as they attempt to pull off an impossible heist promised to make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. There's definitely some morally great characters, a sprinkling of romance, and some great writing. I will say that as for my star rating on this book, there is a possibility that it was the victim of the previously mentioned book slump, so it was my second audiobook of the month and I may have struggled with it for that reason. So when enough time has passed and I feel like I can reread it, I think I will do that, but as the physical book. You'll just have to come back and watch the full video discussion on the book next Tuesday at 8 o'clock to find out more and to see if I would recommend it or not. So I've had a bit of a tough reading month this February, but actually I think 5 is still a perfectly reasonable amount. I think even if you only manage to get around to 1 book, so long as you're doing what you want and you're reading what you want to read, then what's the big deal? I almost feel like a lot of book accounts at the moment are setting unrealistic expectations and pressures on people for how many books they should read, and you really don't need to read 25 books in a month. You don't even need to read 5. But there's definitely that pressure sometimes. Also, if this month has shown me anything, it's that maybe I need a better star rating system because I just sort of go off the vibes I feel after I've finished a book. Like, if it has an amazing ending, but the rest of the book was sort of boring, then it would probably get a higher rating than it otherwise would. Or in this month's case, when I'm reflecting back and I realise that even though I rated the books the same star rating, I definitely preferred one over another. But at the same time, I don't want to go too technical because even if a book is technically well written or not, if the story is gripping enough, I might not even notice that. Like, I know that I have rated books 5 stars where technically the writing probably wasn't the best, but to me, those books will still be 5 stars. So please let me know if you have a star rating system that might work. As for the books that I'll be reading in March, we have Trial of the Sun Queen, which I have already started on my Kindle. It was meant to be Metal Slinger, but at the time that I put that on my wish list, it was definitely available for purchase, but since then it's only available for pre-order, so I think that the book is being republished. It was originally published, I believe, in 2024, and I've now seen like 3 different dates as to when it'll be coming out, so when it does, I will be adding it back onto my TBR, but it had better be worth it because it was so frustrating. I'll also be reading You're Fatally Invited, which is the next thriller for book club, and Deep End, which I'm really excited for because that is Ali Hazelwood's latest release. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any book recommendations, then please let me know, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!